Hello, my History 495 students. This is your Professor Donald Earl Collins. It is week 6 in the course, and this is the big week. This is the week that you turn in the first drafts of your capstone paper slash undergraduate thesis or the makings of one. Um, Technically, it's called a rough draft. Please don't try to turn in the worst kind of rough draft, one that you haven't edited at all, where you haven't done any proofreading for spelling errors, grammatical errors, whatever. It detracts from whatever you're trying to say. So if you otherwise have good work, but you're turning that in, that's a little too rough. Rough means that you've roughly gotten things in order, right? Maybe you haven't filled out every section of your paper or proven every point, but you've started to. That's all a rough draft is. It's not as you just wrote it 2 hours before you turn it in, and here you go, and you know, forgive the 200 errors in the 15 pages that I've written, right? The 200 grammatical spelling errors, words that don't make any sense in context, kinds of things. Because that detracts from what you're doing. I still have to grade it, right? If this were a graded assignment, I'd probably require you to turn in a clean, finished, polished first draft rather than a rough draft. But the rules say rough, so I'm giving you some leeway here. But the truth of the matter is try to turn in as clean a draft as possible. So it should go without saying, but just in case for those of you who plan on doing all kinds of last minute stuff without running spell check and grammar check. So that's one thing. Two is, with me having said all of that, I also want to say at the same time do not get so caught up in the perfect that you don't turn in what you have. Meaning that, this thing of, well, if you give me an extra day, it could be better. Well, yeah, I'm sure if I gave you an extra week, it could be better, but this is an 8-week course. So turn in what you have by next Tuesday, the 27th of July, and we'll call it even, right? I'm not going to be extra hard on you, especially if you let me know. I am working on this section. This is not complete. I plan on doing revisions here. I know there are problems here. That's part of what the week 7 discussion is about anyway. Stuff that in week 6, things that you know that are kind of weak in your actually, that is more week 6 than week 7. Things that are kind of weak in your analysis and what you're trying to do in your execution of your paper, so on and so forth. You're supposed to identify those on your own without me or your peers doing that for you. Week 7 is more about us identifying stuff for you on that behalf, right? So, anyway, so my point is, it's better to turn in a half-finished paper that's of good quality, but you haven't finished all the sections, than to turn in a rough draft of 15 where it's just, graffiti practically, the kind of graffiti that doesn't have any meaning or any tags, right? That has no real purpose, right? Where you just splattered paint, the equivalent of paint all over your paper, right? So that's another thing to keep in mind. But the most important thing, besides trying to find the balance between the perfect and doing well enough, right, is what kind of paper are you guys writing, right? Guys and women, right? Writing in this course. Two of you at this point, I can pretty much tell you where you are in terms of what people have handed in up to this point in terms of assignments, discussions, etc., etc. There are a group of you who are doing very, very well, and there are a group of you who are doing fine, right? Fine's not bad. It means you're doing pretty good, maybe even good or solid, but there are issues, right? And there are a couple of you who have, quite frankly, you have some major issues to deal with in your paper. But the line is between what is known as a readings paper in the field and what is known as a research paper in the field. You guys are supposed to be doing a capstone research paper or undergraduate research thesis, which by definition is an extended version of a capstone research paper, right? Not a readings paper. Readings paper is different. It's basically a historiographical essay with deeper, drawn out, more detailed analysis that could lead to a capstone research paper or a master's thesis or a graduate thesis or even a dissertation, right? In other words, it could be a chapter in someone's dissertation where they introduce you to the field that you're, and the specifics of what other people have been doing that are similar to the things that you're trying to argue in your analysis for a thesis or a dissertation. A readings paper is basically an extended version of that where you might talk about 20 or 30 books, a whole bunch of key mainline articles on your topic, basically pit them against each other and say the weaknesses of this one and this one and this one are X, Y, and Z, and these next three over here, their weaknesses are A, B, C, and D, and so on and so forth. That's a ratings paper, and so far from what I've seen from some of you, that seems to be more of what you're doing. You are not making your own effort to make a separate argument that is distinctive from what you've already discovered from what other people are saying. And I've said this to you in some respects at some point in time or another. For those of you who've looked at my comments and feedback, I've actually said this to you. If you want it, now, it doesn't mean you're going to fail the course or get anything lower than a B if you do essentially turn in a readings paper, but it's not going to be the same level as a capstone paper where you are making a nuanced, semi-original argument that deviates somewhat from what other people or what other historians have been saying on said topic. Some of you are doing, in fact, that, and you're doing very well at that. Keep that up. For those of you who are doing more of the readings paper variety, it might take writing your first draft to look at everything and go, okay, now my argument, I can nuance my argument a bit and say, well, the field's not doing this, or the field hasn't done enough for that, or the field hasn't done enough for X, Y, and Z, and here's the evidence for that, right, kind of thing. It might take doing the first draft to do that. And in general, that's okay. I mean, if we had a full semester, I probably wouldn't be sweating this at all. But we have 8 weeks, and I have to actually grade this per the rules set down by UMGC, rubrics and everything else. These assignments, essentially, and these steps to finishing your capstone are set in stone. They're not me. This is what the department, this is what the history program expects, this is what UMGC expects. So I kind of have to follow their rules around this sort of thing. If it were up to me, you wouldn't even be graded. We would just do some qualitative analysis, a bunch of comments, feedback, suggestions, strongly urged, you need to do this kind of feedback, and that would be it. So, but that's the biggest single thing that folks need to keep in mind. What kind of paper are you doing? Are you doing a research paper or are you doing a readings paper? For those of you who I've commented on and said that you haven't really given me any analysis yet or a strong enough argument yet, that's your problem. For those of you who have, keep doing what you're doing. Otherwise, be productive. Try to get done the best you can. Try to get in a clean, rough draft and not a truly rough draft. Thank you.